Hello, and welcome to Guys Dealings with Feelings, a podcast focused on men's health and emotional awareness. Jason, a licensed therapist with over 18 years of experience, and I, being profoundly affected by the death of my son, share grounded conversations and practical insights to help men navigate modern life and clarity and intention. What's going on, Jay?
What's up, man?
Well, today we're going to jump on letting go. Jason's going to kind of navigate us through this a little bit. I'll obviously push back like I normally do from a layperson standpoint. See where we're headed with this. So, Jason, I know you've been working on this and had something you wanted to put on. I don't know, to record. So here we are. So
Well,
what are we going to do?
it's just like it's sort of conversational, right? So, like when we talk about letting go of the past, like what are we actually talking about, right? Like that is just conceptual. Past is it's a conceptual idea, right? So, what are the actual dynamics that we're talking about, right? So, what comes to mind?
So when you when you say what does letting go mean to me, first of all, I would define to many people how I feel about the past and the future. The past just being a what small bits of or pieces of of events collectively um, that have occurred, and what little we remember, but we now generate. So I this is something that I'm big on. When I learned this was big. Our our history is just a cartoon. It is not real. It is not really what happened. We were there. I'm not saying that we weren't in the
There's more
circumstances.
to the story,
We
right?
There's
Is
so
a way
much
of saying
more. Yeah, and the easy one I throw out there always is eyewitness testimony in criminal court cases. I was in the criminal court system for some time, so I paid attention to that. So my degree was in criminal justice, and eyewitness testimony is the worst because they will, even right after an event happens, because of our perspective and what we see. We talk about that. We sit in the same room with somebody, we see a completely different room, which is wild, but it's true. Same is true. And an individual testify, and then they'll be shown a video of
yeah.
the same event. Oh wow, I didn't Sure. I didn't realize that happened. And it's, what else didn't you not realize? And knowing that, I was like, well, that's probably all of our history. And so we attach we attach an emotion to something. It was a happy event. So all the happy things are going to stand out. And we're going to, you know, exaggerate those, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
But what you're referencing today, I'm sure, is the negative things that we bring along with us.
Not really. Kind of.
Okay. Well, okay. So if we're just talking just
So
past,
I'm talking right now. If you're sitting in your living room and the past becomes active, right? What is a part of
it, yeah,
memories,
it's the memory. It's what I have chosen to
images?
store as
Well, but we don't
memory.
choose it. It's just how it gets stored. So memory, right?
Hmm.
And emotion
Yeah, the emotion tied to it.
and sensation
What smells or all of them?
in the body.
Hearing in the body. All right.
Yeah. And so, yes, in a way, it could include all those.
Senses plus
And,
feelings.
like, they would have a place. So, let me see how to say this. Whenever something doesn't get processed and it gets stored in our experience, so we're defining the past. We're standing in the living room and the past comes up,
Hmm.
right? And so it comes up in the form of mental images, right? Memories, mental images, and feelings and sensations. That's what we're calling the past. I mean, we're sitting in the living room and now that's a part of our experience, but we're not out of the living room, right? And
Hmm.
so the past being mental images, sensations, and emotions, right?
Yep.
So, there's no real reason why we call the nervous system. Not really. It's just like an arbitrary name. At the time, it was based off of what we could see in the anatomy. So that all the peripheral nerves coming out, flowing, moving off through the body, right? And then I think it also at least I've read this. I don't know how true it is, but I've read it. That part of the reason it was named that way was around an idea of our like natural nervousness. All right.
You made
Uh,
reference to it on the last show.
yeah, yeah. So brain, spinal cord, right? That's the central nervous system. It's right down the center of our body, right? And then there's the peripheral nervous system that runs out everywhere else,
Mhm.
right? And our nervous system, I mean, I'm just going to call it that just because it's what we call it, right? But again, it would be better to describe it as a living system, as a coherent system that's just one whole thing that's happening, right? Uh, it's not like there's a brain and then there's a body. It's like it's one thing that's happening. And the nervous system is a flow state at all times. It's a flow of information, a flow of feeling, a flow of sensation, and a flow of thoughts and mental images. So it's actually a flow state because it's constantly picking up information, right? And the way that our system is, it's designed to let go of the past. It's how it's designed, but it's also designed to store things in order for them to be processed later. It's a natural function of the way our system works.
Yeah.
And
Probably
most,
originally to store good things that'll
yeah,
kill us and things that'll
yeah,
heal us and
these are some of
feed
the
us and
thoughts I wrote. Like thoughts move through you, emotions move, sensations shift, life itself moves constantly. Right? We can allow this natural flow, or we can interrupt it by contracting or tightening. Uh, so we don't actually relate to thoughts and memories as being a part of the flow of our nervous system. That's not, we don't really relate to them that
all right.
way.
No, I think most of us relate to all the stuff we think is going on in our brain is as some form of control, whether it's trying to prepare or uh, be safe or get past, whatever,
It's yeah, you're
trying to
describing like
control.
a significant dynamic that happens in here, right? And but historically, the way that it's been talked about is that we identify with thoughts, and instead of them being just a part of us, we identify them as that's me.
Yeah, that's
That's
right.
that's who I am, right? Like I'm somehow located right here or something. Um, and obviously we're and so uh again, think about what we're experiences move through us, thoughts, sensations, and feelings, right? So let's, but I want to be even more specific. Information and energy moves through us,
In the form of the stuff you're saying.
thoughts,
Yeah.
feelings, and sensations, right? Now, when life feels manageable and in our capacity, there's no really significant lag or residue. Things just move through us. Nothing really sticks. We're not ruminating about a lot of things. Thoughts, feelings, and sensations come up and then move through, right? You know, but overwhelming experiences, traumatic experiences, which I just would say birth. Uh, what happens at times like that is the nervous system, s- the whole system stores the energy so it can be processed later, right? So you've referred to this when you've referred to animals that have a mechanism to move energy again and flash them out of a playing dead uh,
Hmm.
scenario. So there's a mechanism that starts to move the energy for them again, right? We don't have that. We have to have some familiarity with our nervous system and the flow of thoughts, sensations, and feelings, and to know how to let go. right? Um, and this is a function of life. It's life preserving.
Yeah, I can imagine because in a traumatic event, you don't need to stop and shake it off. You need to get the fuck out of there.
You got to move.
Whatever it is, you need to get safe, and the
Yeah,
body's just worried about getting safe.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And well, then that's an interesting idea because I think a lot of us, at least my experience when I was growing up, was freezing a lot.
Well, yeah, that's we're gonna do
Right, but
fight,
but
fight,
but my
flight, or
my system
freeze.
didn't quite mobilize to move, it would just shut down because it was so overwhelmed, like, just all the time anyway, and so if something exceeded what I was already experiencing, it just shoof, it just shut it down.
Which I
Um,
think is another macro event of what will happen at the organ level when our bodies find it, I think in severe cold, or there's certain circumstances where parts of the body will begin to shut off circulation to limbs so that it can
trying to
maintain it in the
preserve
but
energy,
just wild, dude, what the fucking body is up can do
life
on its
forms to
own.
life.
Yeah,
Yeah,
without us thinking about
I want
shit.
you to think about that, on its own.
Yeah.
That is the most key thing, on its own. The body will just well, I mean, it's taking care of us all the time, right? It's beating our heart.
And that's what sends us into this, I'm a brain sitting on top of that body.
Well, culturally,
That
conditioning does.
well,
Cultural
however we
conditioning
get here,
does, yeah.
it's easy to feel that way because it's handling everything. And the conscious part of us is trying to control
Yeah,
the thought
yeah.
part of it instead of
Uh,
just out here
yeah,
like an animal trying to eat and
we're
live.
actually trying to control the sensation and feeling part of it by thought.
Mm.
But when we try to use thought to deal with sensations and feelings, it makes them grow. Now, we get to a place where the reframing process happens faster. So but that's because you're noticing the feeling and the sensation faster. So you know to reframe, right? Uh, so it still completely has to do with how aware we are of what we're feeling. Like, how would we even know we needed to reframe? Because we're not feeling good, right? So the challenge comes from us we uh, when we accumulate too much experience, when we accumulate too much energy, too much unprocessed events. It's like a processor that has too many browsers open. It's like there's too much going on, right? And so we start to accumulate.
So it's like a backlog.
Yeah, everybody has a backlog.
And is that you think part of so I was wondering the whole time you're talking about this, if all this is not the result, maybe not all of it, but a lot of this is not being the result of we don't live outside and we don't just focus on finding food and surviving the elements. Instead, we've built these shelters, we've created production of food, so that that's never a problem. Mass production of waters is not a problem as of right now. So we don't have to worry about that. And so we begin to collect, and now data is so thrown, like it's in our face all the time, and we've become patterned to seek more of it. And so
Mhm.
we've just overwhelmed we've done it to ourselves. Like we
Yeah.
we went out and found a bunch of emails and browser windows and shit to open, and that's got us all fucked up. And the
Well,
body's like, "What
I
is that?
would
What's going on? You think?" Or
no, not quite. So that's not how I would characterize it. Well, that's just not. Um, because this is a natural function of life. So it's unimaginably beautiful and complex and helps us continue to move in life. And you touched into something fascinating. And you can look at the standard of living, but you could argue that for most of the world, I'm not naive, but for much of the world, the standard of living is way different than it ever has been. And yet, our relationship to life and to each other and to ourselves is fucked. Right? So you have this weird dichotomy of all these modern comforts, right? And desires and means to satisfy desires, right? And all these modern amenities, but yet we are hurting more than we ever have.
Right. That's what I'm saying. Were
Yeah.
hunter gatherers sitting around licking their wounds when a girl broke up with them?
Well,
Like I said,
probably,
I'm,
probably. Yeah, I would say
uh,
probably. I, well, so you touched into it. And here, this is the thing that I, am working to communicate, right? That what we're describing is a natural function of life. There's a way that the modern world, because of the use of the word trauma, it it's confused us, and it really has made us imagine that it has to do with the things going on, the circumstances and events.
right.
It's not. It's what happens in here to the
Hmm.
body or psyche, to the soul when we are going through these experiences. That's the trauma, right? The neurophysiological, like a lot, the way our entire relationship with life and ourself and everything else gets distorted, you know? So, in order to access the backlog, right? To start allowing it to be more known to
Hmm.
us, uh, we have to connect with what's being held, right? Because again, that's what the past represents to us is held energy, unexpressed. It didn't make its way into life. Um, and generally, the way that we do that, which is our whole damn podcast is aimed at talking about this, is we have to first begin to get in touch with the level of thoughts, feelings, and sensations. And most of us don't know how unattached we are to that. I like how this is. It usually begins with noticing our thoughts, memories, images, or recurrent patterns of thinking. These mental experiences point toward corresponding emotions and physical sensations stored in the body because the nervous system works as one whole holistic system. Releasing the patterns that we've been holding requires that we get in touch with all those levels. It's a requirement. We have to get in touch with thoughts, feelings, sensations.
Do they have to be specific to the events that it is that we're
No, no, no. It
wrapped around
has
the
nothing.
axles
No,
on?
no, it's not about that. That's what I
Right.
mean. It has nothing to do with the actual. I mean, it's not about the circumstances. It's about what occurs in here and how the energy is stored from that event
Right.
and
And
how
I
the
asked that
body deals
question.
with that.
Yeah. No, knowing the answer to the question, I
Yeah,
ask
yeah.
it to make it clear that you don't have to relive an experience necessarily to heal from it. Is that
No,
accurate?
well, no. So the point is, all that we're doing much of the time is reliving the experience. This is talking about how do we move beyond that? How do
Right.
we move beyond reliving the experience, right? And one is information. Get maybe we get informed of what the past is, of what it represents. Because none of us have really been informed of that.
When you say
Uh,
that, kind of expand on that because that could come across as learn more about the circumstances.
well, no, learn more about the nervous system.
Yeah.
Learn more about your body.
How it's storing the past, what's
Yeah.
happening
So,
there. Yeah.
go online and learn about the vagus nerve or the nervous system. There's so much information out about it right now, you know.
Yeah.
Um,
Listen to a lot of our
yeah,
podcasts.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Because you can't release fully through the mind, like through
You
you,
won't.
you can't.
You
No,
right, can't. It's
like through the
impossible.
mind alone, it won't happen.
Right.
Right. Uh, so
And that's where everybody gets stuck. Everybody gets stuck. I'm gonna think my way out of this.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, exactly. But what we don't know is that's because we can't just relax the body, the sensation that's happening in the body. Uh, like when the material was stored, our body would have contracted. Just think about
Hmm.
it. It's like we're going through life going, oh, oh. It's happening all the time. And so what happens when we start to move back into that region, we start to notice things like tension, frozenness, discomfort, because that's how it got stored, right? So one of the major reasons it's so complicated to move back into that direction, because of what it represents. It represents like painful experiences, uh, difficult, heavy energy. So it's heavy to move through our to start moving again, right? Uh, and so the contraction is how the energy is first held in place,
Mhm.
right? And so what happens when we're grown is that contracting is happening all the time to sensations and feelings that are coming up, and we're not really aware of that. So, like, if you're walking around your living room and all of a sudden you're ruminating, right? There would be a corresponding contraction in the body that as you learn to focus more on just what's happening in the body, the ruminating will follow. It was you're sort of working to bury it in the body, right? And so, because what happens when you're walking around the living room and you're ruminating, that's going to mean there's a variety of things happening in the body, right? So one of the things that's going to be occurring is there's going to be a significant release of cortisol, adrenaline, stress hormones. All right, the nervous system's going to be in a sympathetically activated state. The way we're hearing is going to change. What we're seeing is going to change, right? And when that happens, we're walking around the room and that's occurring. There's literally a contraction that's happening in the body that we just don't know how to address.
We're not in touch with it at all, really. It's all
That's really what it is
it
because 'cause we've
it's
been stuck
happening
up
the
here for
same
so long.
automatic Yeah, the same
Yeah,
automatic shit's happening just down that road, and
yeah,
we're up here thinking,
yeah,
think we're gonna get out
yeah,
of it.
yeah,
Um,
and it doesn't mean, letting go of the past, letting the past move through us has nothing to do with, like, erasing it or making it disappear. It's not about that. It's about learning how to move the stored energy that represents those moments of experience, right? Because that stored energy, a lack of processing the past, is affecting our life in every single way,
mhm.
all the time, every day. I mean that, and we have no idea how much we are limiting what we can be experiencing here in our life. We have no clue. Because if we did, we wouldn't. We would.
How you say that, but it's the discomfort that keeps us all from
That's
doing
what
it
it
and
is.
fixing
Yeah.
it, and
Yep. 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 Yep.
it
And you
doesn't
can't
matter.
relax what you can't feel.
Yeah, and it doesn't matter what the carrot is on the end of the stick if it's so uncomfortable to get there, not too many will make it, and that so
And so let me also say this too, more about the body. When there's, say, ruminating and the body's contracting, think about this. Literally, you could imagine the so arteries closing, everything constricts, everything tightens down. And so then when we put our attention on the body and start focusing on what's actually happening and breathing and just trying to relax what's going on, that changes what's happening within the body. So we are actively then countering the cortisol and adrenaline, and the body will then begin to produce serotonin, dopamine, and right, and the blood vessels will start to open back up. So it's literally creating more space in the body for the energy to move.
mhm.
That's literally what's happening. And then that generally will come out through water, through tears, right? And then most of us have a very distorted relationship with releasing. And so most of us have a distorted relationship with crying. Um,
Yeah, I do for sure.
yeah,
I
right.
do it a
It's
lot
like
easier
it's
today.
stuck, right? Like
Yep,
it won't release,
yeah.
right?
I'm so much different today, I'll cry at the drop of a
Yeah.
hat now.
That's being
Um,
more open, right?
yeah,
Um and it feels good. Like it's a natural part of our experience. I cry now more when I'm experiencing beauty.
Yeah, happiness is where I'm
Yeah.
spending it. I'm overwhelmed, and so I'll
That's,
start crying.
very different than how life used to be.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I wouldn't cry ever, much less tears of joy.
Tears of joy? Like,
Yeah.
what the fuck? Tears of gratitude?
So, the disconnect that you're talking about and how it runs our life, the processes we're completely unfamiliar with are actually running our lives. Kind of to put that in what this did for me and how it still does for me, and I've got so far to go. I've come so far, but I'm still being
All of
controlled.
us. It's a process,
Yeah,
like
I'm still in thought so much and think, but I'm so much more aware. So that you mentioned it earlier, where I've can kind of get it back on track way faster,
faster, yeah.
but I'm still having to get it back on track.
And
Uh,
that's just, normal.
so yeah, but I've come a long way from where I was just a complete, just thinking all the
Frozen,
time and frozen. I
just
was
stuck.
stuck. Yeah,
Yeah,
100%
yeah.
stuck. To now where I'm very aware. If anything's off, in tune with it. If I swerve off track and why am I getting upset about this stupid shit?
And that stuck for you, just like for me, would have included painful memories. That's literally what we're describing as being stuck. All those things that we couldn't attend to, that we couldn't
Mhm.
address, that we couldn't
Yeah, it was just a
question.
culmination of all the things that started when I was a kid and they
Yeah,
never really pulled up.
yeah, yeah,
And so and I think that's where when we talk about, don't get it, don't have a victim mentality, is if we're just worried about why did all this happen to me, it it then we're not really concentrating on letting it get out of our bodies. We're concentrating on what happened in the
yeah, 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 yeah,
circumstances.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And so
Um,
it comes across, especially to true victims,
yeah.
which I could probably be thrown in that category, but any true victim, an assault victim or whatever, yes, you were a victim, and we don't ever try to minimize any of our pain and suffering. But the idea is, if you're focusing on that part, you're outside the box where you need to be. You got to get back in. To Jason's point, we have to understand how our bodies regulate, how our bodies regulate
Now
regulates
and
itself,
yeah, yeah, yeah. And I
and
and
let it do it.
yeah, that phenomenon that we experience, the victim. Let's just call it the victim. Okay. So we'll generally have a judge, victim. Those would be two really significant archetypes within the psyche. Yeah. And it's not a mindset. It's a implanted, conditional, programmed idea, right?
And
So
it's where focus is, right?
it has to do with individuality. It has to do with the way the system doesn't let us see it and how inhumane and unhuman the the systems that we function in actually are, right? And so that to me is related to the idea of individualism, right? That and and even on a deeper note, we're not familiar with the purpose of the pain. So there's a purpose in all this unprocessed energy. There's a reason for it. There's a reason why we all have a backlog to catch up on. And the way that I would say it is that information for us is specifically designed to evolve us into the life that we imagine. It is the machinery of our evolution. It's the gas of our growth. Period. Like literally.
It's been manipulated.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, hold on. Say that again. What do you mean?
Has that not been manipulated
Well,
by
we've been conditioned out of this
conditioning?
knowledge about the body and the past and energy, and this we're not given this information.
No, but what I'm saying has been used against us. That drive to get
Well,
to
yes,
the
to be
dream,
consumers. It's
it
been
gets
used
you to be a
against us
consumer.
for
Yes,
consumerism.
yes,
Yeah.
yes,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
yeah, and then that is in turn,
To consume, just to
along
continue.
with, on top of the the not knowing about how our body works and how
Yeah.
that controls us, that shit's controlling us.
Yeah.
There's so many things riding on our backs that are like have
Making it more
joysticks
difficult
to
to find
control
peace.
shit. Yes, that are automatically controlling things that we, because of our lack of awareness, aren't allowing to go in the appropriate direction. I
Yeah.
don't want to say control it because I think that's the wrong word, but
Yeah. And
uh,
and the thing that I'm working to bring to the table, which is kind of tricky in a way, but I just try to do it in the way it feels natural for me, right? Like I don't really try to copy anybody else in a way when I mean, like I use information that's come in my direction, like the things I learn, I look to help translate to other people. So, right, I'm just oriented towards that is just presented, right? So, if you take certain concepts like enlightenment that some of us might be familiar with, awakening, uh, waking up, right? Well, come to find out that specifically has to do with integrating the past, like mechanically. That's the way it is for everybody.
we need to
And
capitalize on that. Like, explain that further.
okay, okay, that word is meant to describe a process of us no longer feeling separate from everything. Like that we're in here, and the world's out here, and God's up, right? And that we're separate. It feels that way for us. And come to find out, it feels that way for us because we haven't integrated the past. And so what happens then, so we're not connected to what's happening in our experience proportionally. Currently, we're primarily in a relationship with the past because if the past comes up and we're focusing on the narrative and reliving and that is the past active right now. And it affects again every single aspect of our life, right? So many of us move through life all the time, experiencing fear or false evidence appearing real, where we we cannot disbelieve the thoughts that go through our mind. They
So you
cause
say
us
we
in
do
an
need to have the past involved? That's what's part of the enlightenment?
yeah, because think about this. So
But it
you could
seems like
just
you say when the past comes up, then we're
hold on for a second. What that actually is referring to is when a character move integrates all their past, all those past experience, the energy of the past is now moving, right? And so now when they move through the world, it's primarily an experience of feeling, intuition, just a kind of knowing that we're all familiar with, but not super familiar with, right?
it definitely isn't guiding us.
No, 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 not yeah, maybe not as often as it could, and so yeah, we're just not connected to our gut gut feeling. So then that character would just be full of the present, full of presence, just presence, 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 presence. There wouldn't be attention given to the past. It wouldn't be coming up. It's already been integrated. And so the future wouldn't be coming up either because the future is
It's
just the
just
past twisted
projected.
up and projected forward.
Mhm. So you're saying the connection you're referring to is that you've cleared the backlog
So now
via,
you're current
so
in
now
what
you're
is
current,
actually going on.
and then you can just maintain, you can just keep riding versus ruminating and living in the
Yeah.
past. That's where you're just thinking it.
Yeah.
You haven't really freed your body. Yes. And so that's where I feel like, in Joel, the experience with losing Joel really kind of encapsulates all that. And you can really, but I was traumatized. I was fucked up way before Joel died. And had he not died, I don't think I'd be where I'm at. I mean, I know I wouldn't be. And so, that's why I think you and I do what we do, trying to let others know that it does, you don't have to wait until something really catastrophic happens. you'll know the signs, and we talk about them on a lot of the shows. You know the signs, and it's just misery. It's, living in your head. It's a brain walking around on a body, all blah 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 that we go through. And if you're finding yourself there, and you just, you know, you can't just not think about it. That it is an appropriate statement. You can't just say, "Well, I'm not going to think about that." That ain't gonna fucking work. Um, what Jason's talking about in clearing the backlog is freeing the body up. It's, you know, it's closing some of the windows and just opening one at a time and letting it clear
And the
itself.
body will do it naturally.
And
It's
the body does, yeah. You don't have this. That when I say making your body available, that means through what vagus nerve
sitting
stimulation,
practices,
meditation,
just taking time
breathing.
to take time to sit down and just feel. It's like, okay, what is this feeling?
So giving the
Starting to
body
practice.
opportunity, yeah,
Yep.
giving the body opportunity.
Opportunity.
That does not mean
Space.
right. That does not mean that has nothing to do with thinking. So that doesn't mean going back to a place where something that you've located has hurt you or whatever. You don't have to do that shit. You have to sit down and let your
Yeah.
body heal, and that's
Let
what
me
I
take
mean.
that
Give
for
it
a
the
second too, because here's what typically happens but it's more rare because it's actually rare that we start to do these things regularly. So when someone starts to do these things regularly, what will happen then is the past becomes more available. So it's paradoxical because until we start doing it, we actually avoid it when it comes up all the time, even though it doesn't seem that way to us, right? It doesn't seem like, but we're feeding it, you know. Um, and so, like, it's literally a process of us sitting down on a regular basis and the body just naturally starts to open back up and loosen back up, and it starts to allow the information to move. And we have to learn how to bring our intelligence to that information. We have to bring our intelligence to the dimension of feeling, to the dimension of sensation, which we've just not been in touch with for
hmm
our entire life, right? Um, and so when somebody starts actively doing this, the past will present itself. The stories, right?
hmm
The sensations and the feelings. And so it's helpful like when I'm to be working together with somebody because again it's paradoxical sitting down and starting to address the body and allow space for these things actually brings up that which we've been holding on to and avoiding forever. So then coming and sitting in a space with me where I can mirror and then like offer even maybe more holistic perspectives and right? And then they could share that with me, and so now it's being talked about, it's being shared, it's moving. It's not a secret anymore, right? We start to give it back to life. It starts to become a part of our story, right? We stop excluding things.
So I don't want to get too far into it. So that means we do have to go back,
No, it will present itself.
whatever it is just going to
Yeah,
show
it's
itself.
you don't sit down and then like I'm going to sit here and think about the past because that's not how it works. It's not actively coming up in that moment. Like you might be able to sit down and go into it and then something activates, you know what I'm trying to say? Um but then at that point you would be working to just try to relax and feel that discomfort.
hmm Yeah, through my
You would
healing
bring
journey,
it back up to allow the feeling to be there. And that's
going
how
through
we build capacity.
going through mine, it was my childhood that just kept going up. The Joel thing was what landed me in the
Yeah. Yeah.
chair with somebody,
Yeah.
and going through all the
Yeah.
shit, the things that you're referring to, where you get professional
Yeah,
assistance
our
to
parents and
navigate it.
all like, yeah, the
So
way
you
we
just go,
were
yeah, it was your
not
childhood.
attended to, our
Yeah, just
needs
any of
weren't
that.
really
Yeah,
met, all the relational traumas that we had, the abusive
yeah, just any of
experiences.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that all came up, and my reaction to it was, well, that all makes sense. It totally makes sense. And then I'm able to see, well, in this season of my life, I didn't understand, I didn't know, and that's why I was behaving in the way I was behaving. Not that I'm trying to pardon or dismiss behavior that I'm not necessarily
Yeah, we
proud
don't
of.
know what we don't know.
Yeah, we just
Yeah.
didn't know, and so I'm just out there reacting. So I think to pull it together, the idea is that you have to give all of this your attention. It's something that is going to take you carving out the time, you allowing yourself the what we call space. So being able to sit down in a quiet space for a set number of minutes and allow yourself to just feel and be. You know, to men, this is just fucking foreign. Man, it sounds gay type shit. First thing comes to your head. Um, and that is the conditioning. And that is the
And I do think that's more rare,
it is
and it's becoming
definitely
more
getting
rare.
better. Yeah, but I think when you got gray beards like
Yeah.
we do, that's kind of where we
Yeah, it's still a part
that's
of it.
where we came from. Yeah, and that, and that's not too far from our grandparents who fought World War II, and they were just on some different shit. They were thinking they were building a society. They weren't where we are in it. So all that's different, and yes. So all that stuff, if we give ourselves the room to do that, uh, we pay attention to it, we learn, we grow, we seek professional help, and getting finding professional help is not always easy. Even when you have the resource and means to do it, it's not always a resource and means issue. It takes research. There's individuals out there who just want to throw medication at problems and things like that. This is I'm not getting into that. I'm just saying that's not always the answer. Um, and so it takes time. All of this takes work, and it's not comfortable. So there's a lot of discomfort, and so you're going to have natural pushback from your own chemicals inside you, and so you're going to have to fight through that. And so uh, we try to touch a lot of these things in separate episodes. So coming up with that motivation type stuff, we got one on that. We've got one on intuition. We touched on that. All of these things we try to drive down and get a little granular with, so as to explain them. But the bottom line is, if you want to get past what it is that you're ruminating on and what you just have been living with since it happened, that's what this episode has been about, and trying to understand. But there's a lot of other pieces that go with it, and it's overwhelming if you tried to sit down. I think this is the 23rd or so episode we've done this season, and to try to think about everything we've covered in these 23 episodes all at one time is overwhelming. But sitting down and listening to 30, 45 minutes, an hour of us talk about them, not so much. And then you can just kind of put that in the pipeline of things that you've learned. And you can begin with emotional regulation, emotional intelligence, which is identification, and et cetera, then regulation of such, giving yourself space to heal. The body can do magnificent and wonderful things, and it will heal itself. Just like if you quit smoking cigarettes, your lungs will heal up. You quit drinking alcohol, your liver will heal up. It'll do the same shit for us. We've got to give it the space and time to do so. And all we do is keep it locked the fuck up and panicked like our ass is on fire and our hair is catching. And so that's all the body knows is what is shit. It's telling me to panic. So I'm gonna fucking panic. So it's just constantly panicking. You've been living with it so long, it doesn't even feel like panic, but you are locked the fuck up. And so if you want to release that, begin some of these practices, really spend some time on self and focus. And the guy in the mirror is the one who's in control of how you feel. And I know that when you're starting out, that statement sounds like this guy's an idiot. How can you say that? Those are the words I used when I first heard it, and it's true. And so when we have that kind of control, and once you learn that, when you're living in a space that you don't like and you realize that it's your responsibility, then maybe that'll be the kind of the spur you need to kick into some action. So if you've enjoyed this podcast, please like, follow, and share wherever you're listening or watching. Doing so helps us reach other men who could be positively impacted by this material. You can find us on Spotify, YouTube, Apple Podcast, all at Guys Dealings with Feelings, as well as on the socials. As always, we thank you for giving us your time, your most valuable asset. And until next time, stay in the fight. This world is a much better place with you in it.